Hello and good morning, everyone. I hope that you've already started on a wonderful note. And welcome here. We are about to start something very interesting and very informative and very powerful. As I had promised you, I am standing in solidarity with the United Nations initiative and campaign of wanting to eliminate gender based violence against women by 2030. And as a result of that, there are 16 days of activism that take place from November 25th to December 10th. And I am doing my bit along with these wonderful women who've joined hands with me and and made this grow into an even more powerful initiative by sharing and contributing their lives, their work, their effort in how they're supporting women around the world everywhere. So, as I promised, we have here with us Fatima Omar. Fatima Omar is my soul sister. She is a friend, and she has been the woman behind my book, The Second Wife. I have it right here on my desk. And she's the publisher of my book. And more than being a publisher, she made sure I wrote this book. So I am very emotional about who she has been to me. She's been, for 2 years that I didn't write the book, she held my hand and she kept mentoring me so that I write the book. She made sure I write the book. And then I went on to co-author co-author in her book called Healing, where we have fabulous healers who shared their healing skills. And in this book, it's a very lovely book. And both these books have been #1 bestsellers. So that is just one of Fatima's magic. And let me go down to a script. Otherwise, I will keep talking for half an hour about who Fatima is. So Fatima is a single mom of 5 kids. She left an abusive marriage after 21 years of struggling in it. And she took her 5 children with her and went on a transformational journey to recreate her life. And so she has been her word and she has done it so beautifully. She is now a best-selling author herself. She's a leader in certified coach training. So she mentors and coaches. And she's a CEO and founder of Million Stars Academy, which focuses on the inner game of success and empowering women to be successful without sacrificing their values. I love that. Fatima is a leader in coach certification, where she equips women with the templates and guides and all that is done in a content to successfully coach women entrepreneurs online. And now over to Fatima.
Thank you so much for having me, Shirin. You know how much I love you, and anything that you're doing, I want to have a little piece of it. Thanks for having me in this conversation, which is such an important conversation to have.
Absolutely. So, Fatima, I would like you to begin with a little bit about your story and your life experiences. Why are you so passionate about supporting women? And why are you so passionate about doing something about women who are victims of gender-based violence? Tell everyone a little bit about your story.
So let's start with what am I doing right now? And I always want to start with that because there's hope at the end of the tunnel. You know, there is that golden, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Right. And today, Shirin, my life is so blessed. I'm booked. I'm blessed. My children are thriving. I'm able to help women globally create an online coaching business. We've got a beautiful, very powerful program starting next week, Monday. And I'm all about giving things free. I'm all about sharing my knowledge, whether it's publishing or coaching, because I know that I was there. So let's go back. Let's go
Right.
back a few years. I got married to a man who was bipolar narcissistic. And inside of, let's talk about Muslim families, Jewish families, Christian families, families that hide things where we protect our perpetrators,
Hmm.
right? Women who are raised to be doormats. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that nice girls, be a good girl, be an obedient girl. And I didn't actually realize that I was being programmed to actually be that doormat and live in a family where you never complain, because good girls don't ask for things, and good girls don't trouble their parents, and good girls don't good girls are grateful for whatever crumbs that are thrown at us. So our parents do the best we can. I mean, I came from a model of a very, very loving family.
Right.
What they didn't know is that by being an obedient good girl, I was taking that old programming into my new relationship, into my marriage. So here I was, 20 years old, got married. I was the good girl, don't complain, don't ask for stuff. So in hindsight, I realized I was also responsible for the role that I played in being that victim, in allowing whatever that happened. So I stayed, and I grew up in a family where divorce was unknown, even though in the Muslim religion divorce is allowed, but it was unknown to us. Everyone stayed married even though you hated your family, and you left. There's the saying, you leave your marriage house with the coffin. So you leave your marriage in your death shroud. You leave it in the coffin. You
Mm.
never get divorced, right? You never come home with the children. That's your new home. And so on my wedding day, my mom says, if you have a problem with your family, you have a problem with your in-laws, your sister-in-law, you turn to God, you pray, right?
Right.
But call home when you're pregnant, call home with good news, call home to celebrate. And that was the message. So I stayed. I stayed. And a lot of people will ask me, well, was it an arranged marriage? I wish I could have blamed my parents for that, but it wasn't.
Right.
It was my choice. I got married to a man of my choosing. And so when all of the violence started happening, I didn't actually understand. I honestly thought everyone was faking it till they made it. So on the outside, we had $1 million home. Our home was manicured. The garden was spotless. So the image was, what's outside is one way of life. And the moment you come inside, he would unzip the sheep and the wolf, the devil would show up,
Right.
right? Till today, my children will say, do they even know who he really was? And
Right.
there's an image outside. He's a respected, wealthy
Absolutely.
businessman, kind and loving, and loves his kids. And there were like nuances. Like if we got invited to families' homes for dinner and he didn't like them, then we would be like, yeah, sure, no problem. The moment we got in the car and came home, he would say, you call them and you cancel. So I was calling to cancel. And then the next time he would see the same family, it was like, Fatima, she changes her mind. She does this. So it
Wow.
was it was this nuance of creating me as the bad guy, and I don't say anything. And I stayed in that kind of relationship for 21 years. And people often will ask, well, did he hit you? Did he hit you?
Hmm.
And what we don't realize in gender-based violence is that physical violence is only one category of the 8. Okay, there's mental violence, and you can substitute violence for abuse in your language. Spiritual, sexual, financial, verbal, psychological, emotional,
Absolutely.
and neglect. So yes, I experienced 7 out of 8 categories of violence, including him making me watch while he abused my children, because he loved watching us cry. That was his control. And so
Wow.
that was my experience. So 12 years ago, I packed up 5 children, put them in the car, including my son with special needs. My son Tariq has cerebral palsy, spastic quadriplegic, and scoliosis. Packed up 5 kids. My oldest was 19. My youngest was 4, and I ran. I ran for my life. I was homeless. I was collecting a $535 welfare check from the government for 5 kids. So between my $535 welfare check and my son's $800 ODSP, which is government assistance for children and adults with permanent disabilities, is how I fed my children. Nobody would give me rent, Shirin, because I had no credit card in my name. I was like a new immigrant in the country. They were like, where have you been living? Because everything is under your husband's name. So that's the gist of the story.
Wow. It's not new to me. And I tell you, the more I speak to other women, and I see it's the same pattern repeating, especially with immigrant women. It's the same pattern that they don't have anything in their names. They don't know where they've ended up. And suddenly things fall apart. There's a total loss of power. Absolutely. And so, not, thank you for sharing so intimately with us and so generously with us. And what I'd like you to share with us is, since you've been there, what really compels a woman to put up with all this violence and abuse other than being the good girl, looking for validation? What else do you think, forced you or compelled you to stay there for 21 years?
I haven't met a woman yet who got married to get divorced. We get married to stay married. This is our dream. We fall in love with somebody. We want to be grandparents. We want to be able to have a life together. We want to raise beautiful children together, right? So there's that one aspect. The other aspect is shame. Shame, shame can envelope us in all of that. And then when the time you are ready, I'm going to just fix my camera. When the time you are actually ready to leave, we ask ourselves questions, well, I've been lying my whole life. I've been protecting the perpetrator this whole time. I've been pretending. So now what do I say? What do I say to people? Or people will ask me, well, why did you have 5 kids with him? Or 21 years you stayed. And so even in our own selves, we don't actually know how to answer those questions. We don't. Absolutely. Right? It's just a matter of, when I look at my own self, honestly, I didn't have a desire to be a publisher. I didn't have a desire to be a businesswoman. I didn't. I wanted to be the best wife and the best daughter-in-law and the best mom. And I wanted that. I loved all of that.
Right.
Right. So there was no inside of me saying I've got 2 lives. For me, all it was, I think when I woke up that one day, it was this dream. And in the dream, Shirin, my daughter was a grown-up. Now, chronologically, my daughter was only 8 years old at the time. And in the dream, she was a grown-up. She was in her own relationship. And in the dream, she phones me. And in the dream, she phones me and she's crying because her husband did the same thing to her as what she saw and what I had modeled for her. When I woke up, Shirin, I was shook because I realized in that moment was the first time I realized my children are not listening to my words. They're watching my actions. And in that time, it was like I had this veil that moved out, and it was like I realized, oh my God, I am teaching my boys how to treat women, and I'm teaching my daughter through my example how to be treated.
Right.
Guess Absolutely. What? I left the next day. I left the next day because you see, I'm also a spiritual woman. I believe in God. I believe in accountability. I believe I'm going to have to answer. And when this thing happened, I realized, how am I going to answer? What am I going to say to my creator? What am I going to do now? And I had no choice but to leave as a responsible mother. So I had no
Right.
plan, no money. Both my parents had passed away, and there I was. So
Right.
shame, the shame of the society had held me in, and then the shame of how I was going to answer to my creator helped me to leave.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can totally relate. And along with the shame and also, a feeling of failure that,
Right?
we women take on the full load of making things work,
Yeah.
making things work in a family, whether it is food on the table, whether it is raising the kids, whether it is keeping the relationship and the family together. And, for us, women from countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Africa, our culture is to stay with the extended family, not just the husband. So, to not just keep the family together with your husband and your kids, but with your mother-in-law and your sister-in-law and your parents and your brother and your sister, it's a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
it is just as if we are responsible for keeping everything together. And if something is not working, it's my fault.
You bring up a really good point, and I had that same thing. I actually took on that it was my responsibility to tell my husband when his mother's birthday is. It was my
Absolutely.
responsibility to create a relationship between our children and him. And I
Right.
love that. What nonsense.
Right. And then if that's not working, or if things are
Powerful.
not our fault, and I would be so restless about it, how to fix it, the fixer upper me. And and in that state of as even as I look back, I think, what was I thinking? I mean, the person that I am today, I look back and I have a lot of compassion for who I was. But I think I say to myself, why did I have to go through so much for so long? And a part of the explanation I give myself is also to be in a state of confusion. My mind stopped working because of the chaos and because of the verbal abuse and because of feeling not good about myself, because it seemed like always I was wrong. Who feels nice about being wrong all the time and being a failure all the time? So, having said that, I want to go on to my next question about the resources that are available here or in any country. We have women's rights, and we have resources like social services, and you have a social worker, and you have shelters and whatnot. So whatever resources were available to you, were you aware of them? Were you afraid to avail of those resources? And if you did take those resources, um, did it work for you? Were there things that didn't work or could have been better? Just it's important to have a feedback on that,
Wow.
because it.
10 questions in there. Okay.
Yes.
Let me
Because
filter through that.
okay.
So I had no idea about resources. I
Yeah.
actually went for a really long time, didn't even know I was in a problem situation. I thought everyone was faking it, right? I didn't
Right.
know that this was it.
Right.
And when I left, the day I left is when I took my phone with me. I needed to Google everything on that night. It was the summer of 2008, and I was doing everything that night with
Right.
5 kids in the car,
Right.
right? So I had called different shelters because I didn't know where to go,
Yes.
and finding out, what do I do now? I'm on the run. I even called the police. I'm like, this is who I am. This is what I've done. I have 5 kids in the car, because in Canada, putting 5 kids in the car and leaving your marriage is called kidnapping.
Right. And your
Okay?
own kids.
It's
Your
called
own kids.
kidnapping. That's right. It's my own children. I gave birth to these kids. I've raised them for 19 years. But if I put them in the car, it's called kidnapping. So I call the police. I'm like, this is my name. This is the car I'm driving. This is where I'm going. And I am telling you right now, I've got 5 kids in the car and I am leaving.
Right.
Well, the police showed up. They showed up because my oldest son was 19 at the time. So the way they put it together is a 19-year-old young man with his mother, and they've kidnapped the other 4. Okay?
Wow.
So yeah, that's the story. You got to really be careful to stay on the right side of the law, even if you're a victim of violence. So I call them, I let them know everything. And while I am waiting now for the police to show up, I book a hotel and I go there and I am just winging it. It's me and fearless faith. Okay, me and God.
Right.
Nothing else. And 4 kids. And so I call shelters. I'm like, I can stay one night in this hotel, but I need a shelter. So they tell me I can bring the 2 youngest. I can bring my 4-year-old boy, because I've got 4 males, okay? I can bring my 4-year-old and I can bring my daughter who's 8. The other 3 have to go somewhere else. And I'm like, no. This is not the plan.
Wow.
The plan is to keep them safe and together. So I was very disappointed with the system, and the system let me down at every single angle, Okay. The cops came, turned on all the lights. By the time I left my marital home around 7 o'clock in the evening. By the time the cops showed up, it was 4:30 because it wasn't an emergency. So I'm waiting. When they show up, they turn on all the lights and they started undressing my children to look for bruises that might have been created by me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that's to see if you were forcing them to go with you.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then they take my oldest into the hallway and they question him separately. They put me in another place and question me separately to see if the stories are matching. And all of that, and then they wake up the children and ask them separately what's going on. I mean, they've already been traumatized, and the trauma just continues, and you have to find the strength to know that things are going to get worse, much, much worse, before they get better. Not only from Children's Aid Society, police, representatives, lawyers, judges, sheriff, and then also God. When you say, I trust you and I put my full faith and trust in you, you're going to get tested on every level. On every level to see, is this the right choice you're making? And unfortunately, and these numbers are really staggering, 95% of women will go back to their perpetrators during this interrogation time because it is worse than what they endured.
Yes.
And let me tell you what happens. 100% of the time when you go back to your perpetrator, you give them more of an upper hand and the violence escalates.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. Wow. I hear you. And it is, women can't handle this. It is a terrible breakdown. And so the thing is now choosing between, what's the worst case scenario, and okay, the one-eyed king among the blind, at least, it won't be that. I'll put up with the violence on myself.
The devil I know is better than the devil I don't.
Yes. And then, I'm thinking about myself. If I was asked to separate my kids, I'd rather be with an abusive man than have my family tear apart. I wouldn't separate my kids for anything in the world and let them live in separate places. Oh no. Oh my gosh. That is a lot to deal with. Thank you.
There's also the other aspect that, and maybe you're going to discuss this, but there is the mental stability of the mom, right? What kind of mental anguish are you going through? I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and I also had suicidal thoughts. And it just goes on and on to know that how do you get out of this darkness, this deep hole of darkness? So yeah, it is a serious thing.
Absolutely. I want to take a deep breath now.
Take a deep breath.
Yes, it's overwhelming to think what someone can go through. And, even though there are women's rights that are supposed to protect us, but it's the loose ends that need to be tied, and there are exceptions from family to family, and that needs to be considered. And that's what I want to, my intention of having this chat and this conversation is people need to know that there is a system in place, but why do women don't go and ask for help? I was asked that question. You are an educated girl, why didn't you go ask for help? There you go. I don't want my kids to be separated. I don't want my kids to be body checked like that. And I would have so many questions. You're questioning me when I'm wanting to keep the kids with myself, and you're not questioning the years of traumatizing that they went through with their other parent. So oh my gosh, that's a lot. So with the lockdown and with COVID, there has been a surge in domestic violence against women. And so, as a survivor, what advice would you have for our sisters dealing with abuse?
Wow, that's a really tough question.
That is.
By the way, is there another comment instead of just this comment that has come through here?
Yeah, I
I want
posted.
to know if there's any questions that are coming through, because if there's any questions, I really, really like to answer your questions. So I'm here, I'm live. If you have a question to ask myself, please just put it in the comments, because I'd really like to have this opportunity to answer your questions. COVID has, the quarantine situation has brought on an unprecedented amount of increase in violence against women and children.
Right.
Before the quarantine, school was a safety net because children could leave their perpetrators, which most of them are men. Now, yes, women are also abusers. I know that. However, when we look at the majority of violence happens against women and children, and then it's an interesting dynamic, because when the husband or the boyfriend abuses a woman, she in turn will abuse the children at the same time. And I often talk about the psychology of the toxic triangle. If you have ever experienced violence in the toxic triangle, and if you look at the triangle, imagine a triangle. The top of the triangle is the perpetrator. The one bottom side is the victim, and the other side is the enabler. If you have been a victim of violence, here's the thing that really shook me. And if
Mhm.
your child has been a victim of violence or has watched or has seen, here's the crazy thing. As long as you experience any of the three, you are able to play all three parts. If you have been a victim, in some case scenarios, you will be an enabler, and you will also be a perpetrator, depending on the situation that arises. Okay? During the COVID situation, violence has increased, death has increased, pain has increased, all of these things, because women have used work as a runaway to escape, or the husband goes to work, or the boyfriend goes to work, so they have that peace of mind. And I wish I could tell you there's a way where you can actually help yourself, because it's like the environment creates this. Now you're stuck in a bubble together, and people lock the door and they leave you in a jail with your perpetrator, and you have nowhere else to go. So what do? You can reach out online to help someone. You can go see a doctor. You can maybe decide that you want to have a group of friends where you can meet on Zoom so you don't feel alone, right? Things like that. If you want to go out for a walk, it's also a good idea. Put on your mask if you're in a certain situation. Go for a walk. Give yourself that freedom to go. Say, even if I don't go somewhere, I can't go anywhere, I can actually go for a walk. Walking might help you because you'll get fresh air, you'll get a different environment, it'll give you a bit of a break. Okay?
Mhm.
And with your children, if you know there's a child also that's being hurt, inform the authorities and let them know. You want to tell somebody that is in an authoritative position what you're going through, because they will keep a track of what's happening in your house. You also want to make sure that you change your passwords all the time on all of your devices, because your perpetrators are checking your devices.
Right.
Okay. Another thing you want to do is you want to keep a journal, even if it's an online journal, or you want to send an email to somebody tracking and journaling when the abuse is happening. Because when you go to a doctor, they've got a documented page what happened when.
Yes, I would do that.
Right? And another thing, so here's number one is tell somebody, right? Number two, change your passwords. Number three, keep a journal, online journal of a documentation of when the violence happens and how it happens, right? Because there is a cycle of violence where you get the honeymoon phase, then something happens, then there's a trigger, then he hurts you, then you cry, then you go back. So you want to watch and see where the cycle is happening, right? Go for a walk, take your child for a walk, give yourself a little bit of just a breather. The next thing is, if you have a little bit of money, you want to save that money somewhere. Now, a lot of victims of violence don't know how to get their mail or a bank account because he's intercepting all of that. Here's what you can do. You can go to a UPS mailbox and get a UPS mailbox for a year. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but you can get a private mailbox, and it doesn't use a PO box. And then start slowly sending all your mail to the UPS mailbox. Now you have an ability to open your own bank account because your mail is going somewhere else. And start saving money. Start saving money as much as you can, but protect yourself when it comes to your documentation, your passport, your citizenship cards, your health cards, because that is also a way to control that. So that is a few things that you can do in the quarantine.
Thank you very much. This is very, very helpful. I'm at a loss of words, you have no idea what's going on in my head. I'm in the scenes with you of whatever you've been through and whatever you are saying.
There is one more thing it's coming up for me, is that you want to work on your mental state.
Very much.
So your mental state and the state of your emotions is what you want to master. So here's a funny little thing. I'm going to share with you what my former husband, my perpetrator, used to do to me. All day long, he would swear and use cuss words and scream and shout. And his favorite thing was, you are an FNB. Okay, so you can fill in the blanks and you understand what I'm saying. Use the most vulgar words, right? Just imagine every day while he's awake, you're hearing this. You're an FFBB. You're an FF all day. So this is all my kids heard. And I would break down and I would cry. Now, when you break down and cry, you're giving your power away. Because I would process this. I would make it mean something. Like, I'm your wife. I've had 5 kids with you. I've given up my family. This is what I would make it mean. Okay?
Right.
Well, one of my friends was a very good coach. And I would call him up and he would say to me, he gave me an exercise. And this is my exercise I'm going to tell you right now. Go to that verbal thing that your perpetrator tells you that triggers you and hurts you the most. Okay, so mine was, you are an FFBBB, whatever. Fill in the blank. You know what I'm saying, because I don't want to swear and use the vulgar words. And so this was my coach's advice, and I'm going to give you the same advice. The words that he uses that hurts you the most, you want to own it. And here's the process. Okay?
Yeah.
Go into your bathroom and say to yourself those words that he's saying. So I would go into the bathroom, lock the door, and I would say, Fatima, you are an FF. And I'm like, no, I am not. I am not.
So
Okay. So I would try again. Fatima, you are an FF. No, I'm not. But my demeanor started changing from no, 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 crying to no, you're not. Then I would say, Fatima, you're a FFBB. It took me 6 months, Shirin, 6 months of saying this every day, every time I went into the bathroom. And 6 months later, I put my hands on my hips. I looked in the mirror and I said, you are an FFBB. And I said, yes, I am.
heck yes.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Well, guess what the next coaching advice was? The next time he tells you this derogatory thing or whatever you think it is, put your hands on your hips and say, yes, I am. Okay? So the next time he did it, he was in some kind of mood. I didn't look at him the right way or whatever. It didn't matter. He goes, you know what you are? You are an FFBB screaming from upstairs to downstairs. I walked up the stairs, Shirin. He was watching television, lying all sprawled out on the couch. I put my hands on my hips, took a deep breath because I was fearful.
Right.
But I had practiced this for 6 months.
Right.
And I said, today's your day, Fatima. Today's your day. Put my hands on my hips and I said, yes, I am. I am an FFBB. What are you going to do about it? That was the day I took my power back. And those words meant nothing to me anymore. So if you are in a COVID situation and you are in a quarantine situation and something is being said to you verbally, you need to own that. Today I can say, you can call me an FFBB or whatever. I'll be like, thanks for sharing. Yes, you're right. And what are we going to do about it? So you take your power back and you own that. And now the power gets neutralized. And that person just becomes another human being saying something. That's it. Okay? The second thing I would tell you to master your state is meditation. You can go on YouTube and you can find affirmations and videos to master your mind and start filling yourself with love, conviction, confidence, self-esteem, and take back your power.
Right.
That's my 2 coaching things while the quarantine. Thank you for letting me share that.
Absolutely. Thank you. That is very powerful and very helpful. And I agree with you. When I used to feel badly about what was being said to me and how it was being said to me, that's what they prey on. That's exactly what they prey on. And, when I took it on that, okay, bring it on, say whatever. It didn't mean that I started feeling that I am that. I didn't start feeling that I'm all of those vulgar things. I own it in a way, in a powerful way. I don't absorb it and I don't make it mean that I am all of that. But it's like, a tennis ball, playing badminton or tennis and just serve it back at him and say, all right, thank you very much. And what's next? Oh, wow, that is very powerful. I've done that. And very truly, meditation, is what walked me through this entire process. Meditation, journaling, taking a breather in the washroom, having a good bath. That is my only alone time where, I'm not being able to leave the house. All the kids are at home. The perpetrator is at home. Just a few moments to myself where I don't have to do anything, just unwind, the downtime and unwind. And, that really helped. And I still do it today. I have can you see it? The prayer bead. Yes. I wear it around my wrist. And, it's not about being in stressful situations. It's a way of living, it's like breathing. And whatever I'm doing, and sometimes even if I don't have the prayer bead, I'm cooking, I'm doing chores, I'm walking, I'm driving, I am saying certain words, say the name of Allah or the name of God, whoever he is, to you, or the name of, or any affirmation, those words have power. They
Absolutely.
they have power.
All words have power. All words.
Yes,
And it depends on what
absolutely.
you want to choose.
Yes,
You want to
absolutely.
live a world of default, like your old poverty scared programming, or do you want to live a world by design where you
Right.
create the world that you want? And I am
Yes.
so passionate about that. Like, for me, I'm going to die helping women make money because money gives
Absolutely.
women choices. And
Right.
money, when good women have money, the world becomes a better place, Shireen. Like,
I agree.
women give money to their nephews who need surgeries. Women who give money to buy shoes for children who don't have shoes. Women feed hungry children. I know. And so, and women, money gives people choices. I mean, I went through 2 divorces, and I can tell you the first one, I had no money whatsoever. And everything in my life changed, and my children's life, and we were on welfare. The second divorce, nothing changed. My children's life didn't change because I was the breadwinner. It was God in my
Right.
corner that I had created a world where I had money, and I was coaching people, and I was helping women globally. And for me, that's my mission until the day I die. I'm going to help women make money because that gives women a choice, whether it's to get a haircut or to go to Cuba and put your toes in the sand, or take your children for pilgrimage, or, be with whoever you want, do with whatever you want on your terms.
Terms.
That's my mission.
Awesome. And that's what your Million Stars Academy is about. That's how you empower women.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your contribution of empowering women.
Wow.
I
So,
already know it. I'm sitting in front of you,
yeah,
living
Women's
testimony.
Stars Academy is a dream that has come true. Do you know, we all have dreams, and we've all said prayers. And
Right.
I said a prayer a long time ago, and I said to God, help me to help one woman, just one. Help me to use my life and my pain. I don't want it to be for nothing. I want this experience I went through to mean something to someone. And today, thousands of women have gone through my program. Million Stars Academy is a coach certification program for 1 million women, regardless of race, religion, faith, ethnicity, background, or history, to take their pain and turn it into purpose, power, and profit. So, and inside of it, we have templates and guides and scripts and done for you content and mindset training to help a woman launch an online coaching business. There's no better time than now when the
Now.
world has gone online. And so this Monday coming up, we have an amazing, amazing 5-day workshop. It's all free, where I show women every single day what I did to go from welfare to global influencer every day, free. Come on inside. It's likeaqueenworkshop.com and sign up, and we'll give you a workbook, and we're going to show you everything free of charge because we want you to go out there and dominate whatever you want to dominate. It's your world and it's your time.
Beautiful. I would appreciate if you put your the website or the link later in the comments.
I'm happy to do.
Thank you. Now, okay, you built yourself, and clearly we can see that you had a great transformational journey. Now, let's talk about women who've never been abused, or who've never, they have no idea that something like this exists. They've had a very pretty, lovely, beautiful life. Can they make a difference and contribute to eliminate gender based violence against women?
You know, I don't know how they can contribute, but it's like prejudice or racism, okay? Just because you have not experienced it doesn't mean that you don't have a role to play. And so your role can be to listen. Your role can be to educate yourself to say, how do the other half live? Your role can be to contribute with your money. You might have money, and there are communities out there. There are organizations out there. You can be out there to say, I want to open my home and help somebody, or ask the question, who in my neighborhood has experienced this kind of gender-based violence? What were the numbers that we said? The numbers that you found out about women that have been raped, 1 out of 4, which means if you're sitting at a coffee shop and there's 4 women at the table, one of you has experienced some kind of sexual violence. It is not a small number. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. So whether it is your education, whether it is your money, whether it is your influence, whether it is your connections, every single human being on the planet can make a difference. You can create a conference. You can reach out. You can put a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post and say, listen, I am a woman that has all of these privileges.
Because
And I watch this thing, and I want to know more. I want to educate myself on my sisters and what my sisters have experienced, because I've been living in this bubble and I didn't know. And that's okay.
Right. Because I've had women, when telling me, does this really happen? Are you saying the truth? I mean, in our world, this doesn't even exist. So this, this divorced situation where there's women who are suffering and there are women who have no idea that something like this exists, how we can bring them together so that we can be a power, a united power. That's how we can work towards eliminating gender-based violence. If there's no awareness, how are we going to work together?
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do a wife swap and she could go and swap with a woman who's experienced violence and spend a week in that house?
Wow. Yes.
Right. Maybe she can say, I want to do a wife swap, and see if she can handle even an hour, never mind a week in a home of a woman.
I was so many times asked, are you telling the truth? And it's very frustrating at that point of time to to be questioned like that. Like, why would I make up stories like this?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to waste too much time with those women, honestly, Shirin. I'm just not. I've talked to women who have said to me, well, did apartheid actually happen in South Africa? Because I'm a child of apartheid. Okay, I have spoken to women who have said, are Black people really ostracized? Really? Are women actually experiencing violence? So we're not going to spend too much time talking about those women.
No, but it is important to bring awareness so that you can't be in denial.
It is not our responsibility to educate them.
Absolutely.
It is not my responsibility to create a relationship between my children and their father. And neither it is for a woman of color to educate white women on racism.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't. It isn't. If you're on Facebook and you're on social media, there is some SHIT going on. Okay? There's racism and prejudice and violence and abuse. And get your head out of the sand and start looking. Open your eyes and start looking and seeing. There are things happening in this world against minorities, against Black people, against women. There are things happening. There are children being hurt.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you for being such a stand for women. You are very, very powerful and articulate. Another way for women to be more aware and to make a contribution, even if they've had a very safe life, would be to volunteer their time at an organization that supports women. They'd get a good picture of what it is like. Yes. So having said that, thank you so much, Fatima, for coming live and sharing your story and educating us so beautifully and so powerfully about gender-based violence and what we could do as individuals to, to flatten the curve. So thank you. And I am looking forward to knowing more about your next venture. I'm going to look into it. And we'll have many, many more episodes, many more conversations. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have conversations with you. Thank you to all those who listened, who stayed on. Thank you to all the guests. Thank you to all the people who were listening and commenting. I just, before you leave, I want to make sure that I have, because this is my very first time doing StreamYard. I'm tech challenged. And so there was just one question that someone asked, and I think that question was for you. I don't know if he is still there. Fatima, can you see the question? I've
I
just,
do. I want to
yes,
ask Fatima Omar a question. That's all I see.
yes, and then there was no question. So I don't know if the person is still on.
Well, thank you so much, Shirin, for this. And I absolutely, it's a pleasure to be your first guest as you're figuring out the StreamYard. Not a
Yes,
problem whatsoever. And for anyone that watches the replay, post your questions in the comments. I have shared
right.
this already in multiple groups and on my page and on my profile as well. Post your question and tag me, and I'll be happy to answer your question. Put the
Thank
link
you.
on for the free workshop that we're having, Like a Queen workshop, so
Thank
you
you.
can command your business like a queen. And I am very approachable. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much, Shirin. I love
Thank you.
you. And you are powerful,
Thank
beautiful,
you.
and extraordinary.
Thank you. Love you too.